The Unusual Yeshivah. Now that he was widowed for the second time, Yosef Akiva had no heart to stay in Molov any longer. It was therefore a timely coincidence that just at this time there arrived in the city a certain messenger from Smolovich, who told him that he had come specially to see him. He told him that there had been opened in Smolovich a yeshiva, which was somewhat remarkable in that it limited itself to accepting but 10 picked scholars, and he, the messenger, had come specially to invite him to come to this yeshiva to be one of the chosen quorum. This messenger was no less a person than the Gaon Rabbi Menachem Shlomo, and he had come at the express wish of the rich Leibele, whose son-in-law conducted the yeshiva with his Leibele's money. Yosef Akiva's fame having reached as far as Smolovich, they decided to invite him to join their yeshiva as one of the brilliant group of men who studied there. This Leibele originated from Prague, but had already lived in Smolovich for several decades. When he first came to Smolovich, he immediately had built a Beis HaMedrash and supported 10 scholars so that they could sit and study there without any financial worries. Leibele had several sons and daughters. When his eldest daughter became of marriageable age, and he sent one of these scholars to Vilna to choose a worthy young man to be her husband, he chose Moshe Leib, who was known as the genius of Traki, as he came from this townlet which was near Vilna. After Moshe Leib had been living for 20 years at the home of his father-in-law and been supported by him, it occurred to the latter that, having such a learned son-in-law, he might as well establish a yeshiva there under the latter's direction. He decided that this yeshiva should only accept 10 picked scholars who would reap a greater benefit by being limited in number. Leibele then chose as his special messenger the Gaon Rabbi Menachem Shlomo, whom he sent to all Jewish towns and townlets to find suitable candidates for his son-in-law's yeshiva. He said they must be the best scholars that could be found, and he knew full well that no one was a more competent judge in the matter than Rabbi Menachem Shlomo. Rabbi Yosef Akiva, who was by nature a recluse, had no great urge to go to Smolovich, nor had he much faith in the scholarship of Leibele's son-in-law, judging by what he had heard of him. But because he was still heartbroken at his wife's death and further troubled by the fact of being left childless, he decided that he might as well leave Molov and go to Smolovich. The manner of testing the prospective candidate to see if his scholarship was of a sufficiently high standard to become one of the selected students was as follows. Each candidate had to prepare a pilpul to be delivered over a period of 3 days. Notice would be given beforehand of the sugya to be discussed, so that those who would come to listen could study the subject and be better able to judge the extent of the candidate's knowledge and scholarship. The pilpul had to be delivered in the Beis HaMedrash before an assembly of all the learned men in the city, after which the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Moshe Leib, analyzed the pupil critically, showing any weak spots in the presentation and then reconstructing it as it should be presented. After all 10 candidates had presented their pilpulim and the Rosh Yeshiva had dealt with them as aforementioned, Yosef Akiva could not help admitting that Rabbi Moshe Leib was indeed a great scholar. He was glad to have passed the test. Yosef Akiva studied at this yeshiva for 3 years, where the order of the day was as follows. Each of the 10 scholars began his studies at midnight, continuing right up to the afternoon, except for a break for an hour in the morning, for shacharis. After mincha, they ate a light lunch and retired for an hour's sleep. They continued their studies until after Ma'ariv, when they ate their second meal, and then went to bed for 4 hours, waking in time to resume their studies at midnight. No conversation was permitted which did not relate to either Torah study or to divine service, and the atmosphere was naturally a very sacred one. Yet, despite being removed from the toil and moil of cares of everyday life, Yosef Akiva, who was so steeped in his studies, which he loved dearly, he could find no peace for his aching heart, and decided after all to leave Smolovich. Though firm in his decision to leave Smolovich, Yosef Akiva was not clear in his mind where he should go. He just felt he must leave the town. One night he had a dream in which his father appeared to him and reproved him for not having sufficient faith. He told him to travel to a place called Krushta, where he would find his peace of mind. Before leaving Smolovich, he was to fast to atone for his sin of lack of faith. It was Sephirah time when he began his fasts. He undertook 40 fast days in addition to the regular fasts of Mondays and Thursdays. Thus, it was not until the end of the month of Tammuz that he was through with his self-imposed atonement.